Hi all, thanks for joining this session. I'm Francis Zimmerman, the field CTO for Tableau across Europe, Middle East and Africa, and I own the regional CTO relationship with three groups of stakeholders. So first, resellers and system integrators, second, tech alliance partners, and finally, customer executives. So really appreciate the fact that you're investing your time with us. At Tableau, we have a very clear mission, which is to help people see and understand data. And we believe this is transformative because in most organizations, less than 20% of the people are actively engaged with data. And so that means really that most people out there are making decisions based on bias and based on what has worked in the past, rather than based on live actionable insights. And so we believe that that leads to a range of harms. That means that, for example, organizations that don't use data effectively will perpetuate discrimination and inequality. And businesses that don't use data effectively will become uncompetitive as they just can't spot the market opportunity or the inefficiencies. So during this session, we're going to look at the key capabilities that every organization needs in order to become great with data. And we'll look at how Tableau addresses these and delivers an analytical experience that people really love to use. And so by the end of the session, I hope you'll be able to map these key capabilities to transformation projects in your customer accounts, and I hope that you'll agree that every digital transformation is a data transformation. But before we kick off, I'd like to get you to just quickly pop up your browser and go to public.tableau.com and look at the gallery that we have here. This is the place where our analytical community innovates and comes together. So by joining this call, I hope that you're taking the first step into the largest analytics community on the planet. Tableau Public is the largest place for people to work together on open data projects, and this is kind of what drives our partner ecosystem forward. When you look here, you'll see these are amazing examples of best practices, and this is the way that we are delivering impact to people every day. So if you can, just take a couple of minutes, just pop public.tableau.com into your browser, save that to your bookmarks. If you can make this kind of one habit that you pick up from this, which is that maybe on a weekly basis or something, you go and look at the gallery and see what new pieces of innovation have come up there. That's going to be the way to keep in touch with the community. Okay, so let's move on. Can I just ask you for this session, we're going to run a few pieces of interactivity on the chat window. So that's the way that we'll be taking questions. Amelia is actually going to be moderating that. So Amelia, I don't know if you could introduce yourself really quickly.
Sure thing. Good morning, everyone. My name is Amelia Rossi, and I am focused on our partner enablement, and I am here to help and interact with you via the chat.
So if you could just, in the chat window, just to check that this is working for you, otherwise I think it's going to be tricky for us to capture questions. Could you just type in where you're calling from? So just your city and country, and let's just make sure that that's all coming through. And then could you also just give us a thumbs up using the reactions, just so we can make sure that that's all working. And then finally, we will do like one activity which you'll need a pen and paper. So if you've got that on your desk, that'd be great. Let's just get that lined up so that we can get started. Okay, so this is the agenda that I've prepared for you today. I hope this fits with your expectations. First, I'm going to start off by looking at why every digital transformation is a data transformation. And then we will look at the specific capabilities that your customers need in order to become data and insights driven. And then what we're going to do is switch gears, and we'll look at this from the perspective of experience. So for us, experience is really important. We believe in creating an analytics platform that people love to use. We think that that's how people become data driven. So we'll look at two very different experiences. One is how do you bring analytics into key business workflows? Analytics is part of the application. And then secondly, we'll look at analytics as a platform where you use Tableau as a platform to help customers build a data culture across all their data sources and all their business applications. And then finally, we'll look at what it means to use analytics as part of the external facing brand for your customers. So use analytics externally to create new revenue streams and to create new customer experiences. Okay, so let's get started. Give me a second. I'm just going to reformat my screen here. Right. I just want to start off by answering this first question. Why do we believe that every digital transformation is a data transformation? And I think for me, it feels like this has become really, really relevant when we started to look at this most recent crisis. But for every crisis, what we believe is it becomes really apparent what the difference is between legacy businesses, where, for example, 20% of people are using data, and data-driven businesses who are obsessive about getting data into the hands of the whole organization. So data-driven businesses are those businesses that look to get 70, 80, 90% of people consuming live actionable insights to support every key workflow. And this statement here from the World Economic Forum, now is the time for a great reset. What they mean is that during a crisis, every business needs to reinvent themselves, and they need to re-understand how their market actually works. And we believe that that starts with data. So we believe that there's three very specific capabilities. Firstly, every organization needs to get a complete view of the quickly changing landscape. Secondly, they need to move with both speed and precision. And then finally, they need to build a data culture to make sure that everyone in their organization is on the same page. So you don't have some people making decisions based on old facts and some people working in new ways. Now, this aligns very closely to the way that the whole of Salesforce innovates with our customers. And this is a slide that Mark Benioff put up immediately after the Salesforce acquisition of Tableau. And it really kind of puts it in perspective why every digital transformation is the data transformation. So we can see that in general, businesses start on the left-hand side of this chart with their fragmented systems of record. And as they start to innovate, they move closer and closer to single source of truth. Now, historically, Salesforce as a whole was very successful at bringing together all the front office data points to build Customer 360, sales, service, marketing, commerce, all of those data points, bringing them together into Customer 360, pretty much the leading company. Now, going forward, that's not enough. Our businesses, in order to get this complete perspective on their business and their market, they need to join together other applications, external and internal data sources. And that's really where Tableau comes in. The second thing that we do is we help customers to move from legacy business practices to insights-driven business. So we really focused on this one question: how do I move from 20% of people using data to everyone empowered for self-service data exploration? And we know that there's value of moving from the left to the right here. So by moving from the left to the right, we know that you are much more likely to add customers, you're much more likely to retain customers, you're much more likely to be profitable, and you're much more likely to report growth relative to all the peers in your market. So that's kind of the outcome. Now, the value in joining together Salesforce and Tableau's analytical practices can kind of be summarized here. What you see here is when we actually speak about joining together all the data across your business, what we mean is let's get those front office functions and middle office and back office functions all around the same table with the same perspective on the truth. Now, the front office functions that you're probably more familiar with, because I guess we're all part of the Salesforce ecosystem, are things like Customer 360. How do I make sure that I bring together all those data points that I have around my customers? But also specific sales use cases, lead and referral conversion, specific sales use cases like customer retention, and then specific service use cases like improving satisfaction, leveraging BI insights to optimize your customer journeys. So those are kind of the front office use cases down the left-hand side of this chart. Now, the right-hand side of this chart, we see all of the back office and middle office use cases that you also need in order to build Analytics 360. Firstly, it starts off with Business 360, which is provide all those board level insights so that the whole business can manage every part of the business effectively. Secondly, use data to look at all the processes across your business and drive operational efficiencies. Third, we see risk and compliance management, where a lot of the time reporting is actually used to join together regulatory reporting and the requirements that we have in terms of governance and things with the way that I optimize my business. And then finally, we see HR type use cases, productivity and attrition insights. So how do I make sure that I manage my workforce better? I improve my retention of people with great skills. I improve the development of my people. So what I'd like to do now is just take a quick break. Amelia, I hope you could pop up the first survey. We just like to run through these 8 specific areas which we see when we look at front office versus back office use cases for analytics. I'd just like you to just drop into the survey and just tag any of these which you think are relevant to your customers based on conversations that you've had. I think this is going to help us kind of tailor the rest of the event a little bit.
Great, Francois. We can also see quite a few responses coming in.
Okay.
Let's give everybody about 10 seconds, and then we can take a look at the results.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look at the results.
Brilliant. So it looks like there's the top three are Customer 360, Customer Service, and Business 360. But it looks like this. I mean, to be honest, there's not a lot of white space there. So it looks like this seems to be conversations going on across the board. Okay, I have actually prepared a couple of use cases in terms of demonstrations. One, we're going to show how we can bring like knowledge about our Customer 360 to some external partners, and we'll show that when we're looking at analytics within the workflow. So we'll show a worked example of that. And then for Business 360, I'm actually going to look at and productivity and attrition insights in some detail to show how that contributes towards the way that you look at your entire business. So we'll dig into these in some detail. Okay, thanks for that. Let me close this and let's crack on. So now I want to kind of switch gears and look at what the key capabilities are that you need to deliver to your customers so that they can become data and insights driven. And it really starts off with these kind of two dimensions, really. The first thing that customers need to do is they need to be able to, and frankly, this is why we need our partner community, is we need to leverage our ability to connect to all data at scale and our partner expertise in cloud platforms to help customers to move from low quality, stale, ungoverned data to reliable, up-to-date, governed, granular data access. So that's the first thing we need to improve in all of our organizations. We know that when we do that, people move from these report factories where they are typically running reports on a periodic basis and they're largely using extract stale data to a point where they are using data based on live actionable insights. So that's kind of the first dimension. And we know that that's not enough. We know that if we just move them up there on the left-hand side, then every time they need to answer a new question, what they'll typically do is just export data into Excel. And that means that you lose control of the data, you lose governance, people move back towards making data based on stale, making decisions based on stale data. So we know that by working with partners to roll out data skills and governance, we take them to a point where they can self-serve answers, and we can take them to a point where they have governed analytics ubiquity. So those are the first two dimensions. Now, this additional dimension which has emerged recently, which is to reach the whole business with data, to become data-driven, we also need to think about moving analytics from a standalone sidecar function to part of every key business workflow. So in order to move from serving just the data curious to everyone, we need to meet users where they work. We need to make sure that whether they're internal business users or external partners or customers, we give them data inside their process. And when we do this, data becomes a core part of every digital transformation, and we enable our customers to use data plus digital technologies to create new business processes, culture, and customer experiences. So in order to get to that point, we think that there's three key capabilities that every business needs to be great at. So to become data-driven, the first thing they need to do is recognize the fact that their data lives everywhere. Data tends to live in tens to hundreds of apps and internal and external data sources in all of our customers. So you need to be able to bring that all together, connect it at scale, and apply governance at scale so you can trust all that data. The second key dimension is you need to reach all the personas in your business with different experiences so that you can move from 20% of people using data to 70, 80, 90%. And we think this requires three experiences. So firstly, some business users will use dashboards as analytical middleware to move in context between data from multiple business applications. So Tableau becomes that middleware that sticks applications together. Now, secondly, some business users will use capabilities like natural language and augmented analytics to self-serve answers to brand new questions. And so in times of crises, we know that there can be a lot of brand new questions, and so self-service becomes even more important. And then finally, there are a lot of business users out there that just will not use data unless we embed it where they work every day. So now we also see an emerging trend where it's not enough just to surface up relevant insights. You also need to make it easy to move from an interesting finding to a next best action. So you need to enable people to take action in the flow of analytics. And this is where we speak about integration with workflow. For example, you might look at MuleSoft Experience APIs being integrated so that you can have a next best action coming from an interesting data point. Now, what we've done is we've obviously invested in specific platform capabilities in each of these three pillars. And the way that we deliver these are, firstly, deliver the broadest range of connectivity support. So Tableau can connect live and via extract to more data sources than any other BI platform. And we can also enable people to combine those data assets flexibly at multiple different levels of detail. Secondly, we recognize that data isn't always in the right shape for analysis. So business users may need to reshape data so that they can answer a new question. Now, historically, people would have exported data into Excel and done that, and you'd have lost control. We give self-service data prep tools inside the platform so that people can do that recombination at scale. And then finally, governance is about making sure that we know where data comes from and where it's being used, and making sure that we can, for example, apply effective lineage across and effective row-level security so that we can keep control and governance on top of that data. Now, in this middle column, we believe that there are three specific capabilities. Firstly, to empower more people to use data every day, we need to enable that. We need to make it so that they can easily discover data assets. We need to deliver recommendations to help them look beyond the data sets that they're familiar with. Secondly, we deliver a range of analytical modes, so visual, natural language, and augmented, in order to provide these guided analytics and self-service experiences. And then finally, we focused on engagement, and we will focus even more extensively on engagement going forward. So how do you have things like subscriptions, metrics, data-driven alerts? How do you use comments to bring other people into a data investigation so that analytics becomes a team sport? And then finally, we also need to provide insights where people work. So the Tableau CRM experience today delivers native analytics in Sales and Service Cloud, and Tableau's core embedding capabilities bring insights into any application. And we can see that mobile is still underused. So we know that most customers aren't bringing data to where people work when they're mobile users. So this is a great customer success opportunity. And then going forward, we can see that there's going to be even more focus on workflow integration. So how do we use things like the Salesforce workflows, and how do we leverage, for example, MuleSoft Experience APIs to make it easier for people to move from an interesting data point to a next best action? So these are the 9 areas that we think are relevant in terms of technical capabilities and how these map to the specific things that organizations need to do in order to be great with data. But what I'd like to do is, as a quick exercise, I want you to get your piece of paper and draw up a tic-tac-toe board. So, and let's label the first column data, the second column empowerment, and the third column action. So we're going to go through each of these capabilities for your organization. And I just want you to mark them as red, amber, green. I want you to do it for the organization that you work for, so that this will help you to empathize with your customers later when you're having these conversations with them. So I'm not going to ask you to play this back to any of the groups. So just be kind of honest about where your particular organization is red, amber, or green in each of these areas. So we're going to start on the first column, the data column, and we're going to work from the bottom up. So firstly, at the bottom, can you access all the data you need to make decisions about your business? Can you easily combine data from multiple apps? Are you red, amber, green? Secondly, do your business users have the tools they need to reshape and clean data in a governed way, or do they have to export into Excel? And for this top one on the left here, for the reports that you rely on, do you know exactly where the data comes from and what the quality is? Do you know where else that data is used? Okay, let's move to this middle column now. So the middle column is empowerment. Starting at the bottom again, firstly, can you effectively find new data assets that may be relevant? Red, amber, green. Secondly, how do you analyze data? Do you rely on static reports? Do you use interactive dashboards? Can you self-serve answers to brand new questions without going back to core IT? And then the top here, collaboration. Can you effectively share findings with members of your team? Can you invite others to collaborate on a data investigation? Okay, the final column, action. Let's start from the top down. Firstly, do you bring analytics into your business apps, or is reporting still a sidecar in your organization? Secondly, can you access insights effectively on mobile? And then finally, how easy is it to go from a data point to an next action? Just again, red, amber, green for your organization. So I hope this exercise kind of has helped you to kind of like build a little bit of empathy for the challenge that your customers have. Because now what we're going to show you is really focusing on the experience. What does it feel like to be great at working with data across all of these areas? This is the Tableau portfolio. At the last Dreamforce and at the last Tableau conference, we announced that we were bringing Tableau CRM, which was Einstein Analytics, into the Tableau portfolio. But we also announced that we were going to be bringing Einstein across the entire portfolio. So now what we have is we have a range of personas that we can satisfy. I mentioned the persona on the right-hand side, that persona that will not use data unless it's embedded inside their workflow. And that's where we're going to start our discussion today. We're going to start off by looking at the Tableau CRM experience, and then we'll look at what it feels like for the rest of the business to use data across every single application, and we'll look at the rest of the Tableau experience. So, what is the experience and impact of bringing data to every key business workflow? When you see a project in this space, you'll see something like this. When PwC deployed Tableau, they had some really, really specific sales processes that they need to drive efficiency for. So they understood that they could use data and insights to optimize opportunity scores, win rates, and time to close, and to identify white spaces in Sales Cloud adoption, and to minimize account reps' time spent on each account page to look at account information to identify what the best process was going forward. So they knew a very, very clear sales process, a very, very clear set of service processes. They knew exactly what they wanted to do and how they wanted to use data to optimize those. And this is the way that this portfolio has been designed. So Tableau CRM is designed to make it really easy to bring insights into the CRM workflow. And that doesn't just happen. We've had to essentially redefine what embedding looks like. So firstly, we need to not just give people a chart, we need to give them specific notifications for things that are relevant to them. Secondly, we need to make sure that the charts we do present are bite-sized so that they can consume them within the workflow without having to disrupt what they're doing. Thirdly, we need to provide transparency into predictions and what have you that we've built on top of that so they can see what may happen or what the leading causes were for what they are seeing in their predictions. And then finally, we need to make it really simple for them to take action from within the workflow. So today what we've done is we are focused on, with the Tableau CRM portfolio, we are focused on these two use cases. So typically sales and service use cases, and we are focused on bringing the power of AI into those two contexts. The way we do that is we use Einstein Discovery. So Einstein Discovery gives us a data science experience that is used within Tableau CRM, and this will be extended to be used within the whole rest of the Salesforce workflow. Actually, there's a release that's just coming out now for the rest of Tableau, which is 2021.1, which brings the power of Einstein Discovery to the whole Tableau portfolio. So the way that Einstein Discovery works is, first, it enables automated discovery. So the platform makes it easy for you to sift through millions of combinations in seconds and automatically surface insights. Secondly, it enables you to build custom predictions on any data and to perform what-if analysis. And then finally, Einstein Discovery makes it straightforward to assess the accuracy of predictive models that you've built with model metrics and bias protection. And then finally, it makes it easy to deploy that model into your production environment. So these are the things we need in order to turn from descriptive analytics to predictive analytics, where we can start to tell people what may happen and start to advise them about next best actions. And then the final thing that Tableau CRM relies on is it relies on Einstein Next Best Action, which enables us to model complex workflows so that we can move from an interesting data point to an interesting action. And now I want to show you what that feels like to make data part of your application workflow. And I'm going to start off by looking at Frank. So Frank is an independent insurance agent, and he is one of these people who just won't use data unless you actually embed it inside his workflow. So now when he logs onto his portal to look at products and to speak to one of our experts, he'll also get data tools to enable him to manage his book of business. So Tableau CRM brings new views into his portal that lets him analyze his gross written premiums, his customer interactions, his renewals, his cancellations, and explore which products are the most profitable. So now I have an external broker. They can access all the information that they need about my organization so that they can sell my products more effectively and I can scale my sales capacity. But that's not enough, because to make him actually use that data, we're also going to surface notifications. So these notifications will highlight the key data points that we want him to take action against. So you should explore all those charts, but we're also looking for ways to keep surfacing up relevant insights that need to be top of mind. And now Frank notices that renewals are a priority. So he navigates to his renewals and cancellations dashboard. And here he can see some predictive insights that have been generated by Einstein Discovery. He can see his accounts most likely to renew and also those that are most likely to attrit. But we also want to make it easy for Frank to carry out actions from right here inside his data view. Now, what if he wants to send a reminder to all his accounts that are most likely to renew? Well, he can do that right here. He can carry out an action without leaving the data pane. And he can also dig deeper into any specific policies so that he can understand the next best action. And he can drill right through into the Salesforce views from his analytics pane. And so you can see even deeper into the reasons behind those predictions for likely to renew, and he can see suggested next actions. So we're giving him insights, we're giving him recommendations, but we're also creating transparency. We're building trust in those predictions. We're not just suggesting actions, we're being transparent about the reasons behind every single prediction so that we build trust in the system and get people to use insights and recommendations every single day. So what I'd like you to do is we're just going to take another break for an activity. I want you to just write down a sales or service process at one of your organizations that can be improved using analytics. And think about the place where that process is broken and whereby turning it from a dumb process into a smart process by giving people the data that they need, you can help them to deliver efficiency. So for the process you've identified, firstly, who are the stakeholders? Who are the people that actually run the process? What parts of the process do they own? And then think of the key questions that they need to answer during their workflow in order to improve success. And then finally, how would you measure improvement in your customers? Typically, when you look at those measuring improvements, you're also looking at which KPIs do I need to surface in my process optimization dashboards so that I can actually make sure that I keep on improving that system. So just to answer these 3 questions for one process, I'm just going to take a quick break for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to move on. Amelia, how are things going? What are we doing in terms of questions at the moment?
Yeah, it's a great time for a break. So while you guys are doing that, we have gotten a few questions in the chat. The first one, Francois, I'll start with is, how can you use Einstein in Tableau? And by Tableau, they're specifically meaning desktop or the prep tools.
Okay, so we've actually launched 3 integrations between Einstein and Tableau that are coming out in this next release. So the next release is 21.1, which I think is out at some point this month. So the first way we bring Einstein into Tableau is we have a dashboard extension which enables you, when I have a prediction, you can drill into the suggested actions and the leading causes behind that prediction. So that is the first integration point. The second integration point is we've actually made it possible to extend Tableau's calculation language so that you can use predictions that have been published from Einstein inside Tableau as native calculations. So we have a framework within Tableau called the Analysis Services API, and we enable you to do that. And the final thing is we have Tableau Prep, our data prep tool, can now use Einstein Analytics to do bulk scoring. So if I have a predictive insight that I want to add as a new dimension into a data set, I can use Tableau Prep to do that. We're actually going to run through each of those during a follow-up session, which is the technical overview of the Tableau platform, and that'll be I think it's on the 11th. Is that correct, Amelia?
It is, and I'll post a link to that session so you all can make sure to highlight that one. Francois, do we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Great. The next question comes from Kamal, and he or she would like to know which industry has proven to be the most successful when using Tableau CRM.
I'm trying to think. I mean, we obviously have a lot of, so we've actually, our initial success has been with the industries where we have industry clouds, because that meant we were able to build, kind of more ready-made analytical applications. So you look at it, we have, a lot of success in retail. We had a lot of success in financial services. I would say that those are probably the top two. Yeah, apologies, it's not a great answer.
That's okay. Yeah. I think that actually is very insightful. The last question, does Tableau CRM timestamp the entries to allow for comparisons from day to day or even month to month?
Yes, you can do. So inside Tableau CRM, we essentially have like a data workflow tool, which is how you pull data out of the Salesforce database into this massively scalable Tableau CRM like data store that runs in the cloud. So as part of the way you engineer your data workflow, you can timestamp data and keep multiple versions of the truth inside your analytical database. So we do see people using that. For example, sometimes they want to look at how their pipeline has evolved over time, and so it's perfectly possible to do that. And some of the ready-made analytical applications we publish with Tableau CRM actually do that.
Great, thank you so much, Francois. That's all questions for now.
Okay, awesome. So guys, thanks for staying engaged with this. Let me try and get my mouse back. Right, and I'm just going to take this out of sharing mode and just put it back in. Sorry, I'm just struggling a little bit with.
No worries, you are good to go.
Fantastic. So I haven't been able to see my mouse pointer. It's been very disconcerting. Right. So the next topic I want to look at is the broader topic. So we've looked at Tableau CRM. Now we're looking at the broader Tableau portfolio. So moving from within a specific application to insights across the entire organization, there are different needs, and specifically across the entire organization, people want more of a data portal experience. They want to be able to see all of their assets at a glance. So this comes down to this idea of how do I build a data culture? And so how does a project like this, this sort of project look? You'll see, oh, am I still? I am still, sorry, I just saw something pop up. Amelia, can you still hear me?
Yes, I can see your screen and hear you.
Fantastic, okay. So, so in a project in this space, where we speak about building a data culture and we speak about reaching the entire organization, you'll typically see one of two things. Firstly, you'll see something at, there might be like a board level initiative where, in this case, at JLR, the CEO realized that in order for him to have control over his business, he needed to transform the way all of those individual businesses within the JLR brand use data. And what you'll see here is the success measures for this sort of project will be how effectively have we managed to onboard all of those different businesses with a common reporting framework. So that is the first type of project you'll see in this space. You'll see in this space at JLR within 9 months, we completely revamped the way that the organization uses data so that 7 out of 10 of the businesses are using Tableau as this reporting framework, so that this common view of the truth. The second sort of project you'll see in this space actually starts off as a digital transformation project. So in this case, this organization is Micro Focus, and they have an organization that has grown through acquisition. So as you guys are familiar with, an organization like that tends to end up with multiple business platforms. In this case, they had Anaplan, NetSuite, Workday, ServiceNow, Salesforce, a whole heap of organizations. And after they bought HP's enterprise software division, they ended up in a position where they really didn't have a unified view into the whole business. And that is a systemic risk for the company. So what you can do is, obviously, in this case, there is a partner out there that is helping them to rationalize the application stacks. But they can't wait until the entire application transformation is finished before they get single view of the truth. Instead, what they do is they put in Tableau early. They use Tableau to deliver financial integrity, business control, and enterprise risk requirements across the entire business. They do that quickly within the first 6 months, so that they now have a single view of the truth that they can use as a constant as they go forward and modernize the entire application stack. So these are the two types of opportunities. The one actually specifically thinks about data culture, and the second one thinks about digital transformation, but data culture is actually inherent in what they're trying to do. So in order to deliver for these two projects, we have to deliver some really specific capabilities that are pretty unique to the Tableau platform. So I'm going to kind of go through those really, really quickly. The first thing that is unique about the Tableau platform is it is a data platform. It's not a desktop productivity tool. So it makes it easy to join together multiple parts of the data pipeline into a single workflow. So we see people who would have traditionally been data engineers now being able to operate much further downstream, closer to their business users. And we see people upstream who would have been analysts who can operate further downstream into traditional data engineering tasks. They can move seamlessly within a single panel from access, prepare, govern to working with data at scale, and then finally to collaborating with data. And so that means that they can move back and forth between this so they can iterate faster. Secondly, Tableau is a visual analytics platform, not a graph builder. And that's a really, it sounds like an academic distinction, but a lot of visual analytics tools out there ask you to choose from a list of charts before you choose which data points are interesting to you. And Tableau looks at things differently. Tableau starts off with primary research into how people use data. We know that our brain processes information using what we call pre-attentive attributes. And our job is to, based on the data points you select, map those into the most efficient visual language for you to understand those. So depending on the data points, we use primary research into cognitive understanding of data to map those data points onto what will help you understand that data most effectively. So Tableau doesn't start off with a list of predefined charts. The view will continually evolve as you drag additional data points in. And you'll see that that makes Tableau this amazingly flexible visual language. You don't need to download custom visualizations to build all of these things. When you look on Tableau Public, you'll see all of those amazing visualizations were built on the core platform, and it's this just massively diverse visual language. Finally, Tableau helps more people to move from passive data consumers to active explorers. And when I speak about this, we don't want people to fall in love with dashboards. We think dashboards are just the starting point. We judge success based on how easy is it to take someone who uses dashboards to a point where they can ask their first question without going back to core IT. So we've created a number of different workflows in order to enable people to do that. But the one I'm going to focus on today is the simplest starting point for a data curious person is natural language. They can use Ask Data's natural language query without understanding visual analytics, and they can use this to ask their first level questions. When they get to a point where they need more analytical depth, so they're doing multi-dimensional analysis or what have you, they can then seamlessly transition within the platform into web edit so that they can start to pull apart that data using their visual analytics workbench. And then finally, when they need to work alongside an AI, they can stay in the same platform, in the same workflow, and they can use explain data's augmented analytics to start asking new questions about what makes specific data points interesting and what other dimensions are relevant to this specific discovery. So that is kind of the flow that we'll take you through during the demonstration. We'll take you through this flow from a passive consumer to an active explorer, and we'll show you how we develop people's data skills. And then finally, it's not just about getting to everyone, it's also about delivering depth to the people that are data rock stars. So Tableau provides amazing depth of experience. For example, complex spatial analysis and data science integration you can all do within the platform. And we'll touch on those at the follow-up technical session next week on the 11th. But now I want to quickly start off by looking at a data story. What does it feel like to move from a passive data consumer to an active explorer? Let's start off by pulling up, hang on. This is, here we go. In this space, when we speak about building a data culture and we speak about getting data into the whole organization, the starting point for people really is, how do I manage and discover data assets? How do I understand what is available out there so that I can collaborate with other people across my organization? So this is the landing page when someone logs onto Tableau. What they see is they see their favorites, they see the recently used, but they also see recommendations. So they can search for assets, but they can also ask the platform, you know, what is trending across my organization? What are other people like me looking at? Chances are that the question that they have to answer, someone else there may already have answered. And by working this way and by collaborating with other people in the organization, they can typically move straight to an answer really, really quickly. They can also discover other initiatives that are happening within the organization that they may want to become part of. And the initiative I'm going to start off on is looking at, in this case, how do I manage gender equality within an organization using Tableau? So this is something that's important to us within Salesforce. We're really committed to making sure that we focus on gender diversity and equal pay for equal work across the entire organization. But we know that you can't improve what you can't measure. So we know that typically the way that these sort of initiatives succeed is you start off with radical transparency. So you show people, everyone across the organization, what the organization really looks like rather than the way they think it looks. And so this sort of dashboard is fairly useful. It's a good starting point. It makes it really, really possible for me to answer a lot of questions about my organization at a glance. So it gives me the detail as well as answers to specific points. So in this case, what I can see at a glance is I can see that my largest country is the UK. My two most diverse countries are actually Taiwan and China. And then I can see that there's some countries over here that are lagging behind in terms of representation of women on the left-hand side. I can also use Tableau's interactive experiences to start to do comparisons. So, for example, I may hypothesize that, basically I expect all of the people in the UK and Ireland to be, broadly similar in terms of gender representation. But I can actually see that that's not the case. I can see that Spain has made much more progress compared to, for example, countries like Poland and the Netherlands and Ireland in my organization. So I know that there's some things that I need to work on there. I can also use this sort of experience to even drill kind of into really detailed questions. So I can say, for example, what is the gender diversity in the UK and Ireland and Europe in grades 6, 7, 8, 9 for people in this cohort of 35 to 40-year-old people. So I can ask really complex questions in a guided workflow. But that's not enough. I also need to understand whether or not this data is fundamentally trustworthy. And the way I do that is by bringing lineage right into the dashboarding experience. So now I can see where this data comes from. I can see how frequently this dashboard is actually used. I can see any definitions for any individual fields that I see on my visualization. But I can drill into the lineage and see exactly where this data comes from and what other workbooks it's used in. I can also have a conversation with other people in my organization. So if I notice an interesting observation, I can invite other people to collaborate with me, and I can ask them to bring their expertise to help me identify what's going on behind the scenes. So, for example, in this case, a colleague has identified that there seems to be that they want me to look into what the recruitment practices for grades 7, 8, and 9 are in terms of gender diversity. And they've noticed that this dashboard doesn't answer their question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look. Their question asks about, have recent hiring practices changed the representation of women versus men in these top 3 categories? But I can see from this dashboard, I'm not answering that question. I don't have any information here around length of tenure or any of that sort of thing. So this is one of those examples where the individual is going to have to go into a self-service experience to self-serve a new answer. And if you are data curious, if you are a new user of data, then this is the simplest way for you to transition from using guided analytics, so dashboards, to asking your first question. And we do that in a couple of ways. Firstly, we give this amazing data profiling view. So you can see really quickly, what does this data set contain? Does it contain, in this case, tenure information, so that I can answer my question? Secondly, you may want to start to ask a number of throwaway questions, just to see what the level of detail is of the data. So in this case, look at where have I got data? Which countries? Which cities? Let's just quickly spot test this. Let's look at just the USA. I can see that this data set contains all 3 of my offices in the UK and the USA, so I'm okay with that. Perhaps I want to quickly spot check the UK. Let's just trim that down to just the UK. And I can see that it contains all 3 of my home offices in the UK. So I'm happy that the data set contains what I need to answer my question and that it's of the right level of detail. And now I probably start to ask focused questions. So I'm gonna ask a question about employees by gender and by grade, because that's the fundamentals of what are being asked. I can maybe start to flip the data around in different ways to quickly identify that, the largest cohort of female employees is in grade 3 and the largest cohort of male employees in grade 5. And I can see that generally speaking, there's quite a discrepancy in terms of number of men and number of women across the whole organization. And now I'm going to ask a really, really specific question. Keep on asking more questions, keep on having the conversation until you drill into something which is relevant to your specific question. So in this case, now I have all of the fields that I need to answer this question at scale. I can see that I am asking a question, how many employees do I have by grade and by gender, by tenure range? And maybe this is an efficient way of answering the question. Maybe this is all I need. Maybe I've come to the end of my analysis. But what I'd like to do is say, I think that this is actually busy, and I'd like to dig into some more detail, and I'd like to switch from natural language to visual analytics. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start pulling this data apart using my visual workbench so that I can work out if there are new and interesting ways of looking at that information. And so what I'm going to do is potentially, reshape the data a little bit. So let's put gender and color, and let's put tenure range and columns. And let's say, well, actually, I don't want to look at all of the detail. I want to group together all of these tenure range bins. So I only want to look at the tenure range 0 to 2 versus everyone else, and I want to compare those side by side. And maybe what I don't actually care about is actual numbers. Maybe all I care about is percent difference. So sorry, percent of total. So in that case, what I'm probably going to do is keep on reshaping my data until it ends up in a shape that makes sense to me. And then maybe what I'm going to do is explore a number of different ways of comparing that information side by side and top to bottom and what have you, until I end up with a view that might look something like this. For each grade, what is the comparison of percent men versus percent women across the 0 to 2 tenure range and the longer term employees? And so now I've come to a point where I've started to answer my question. I've gone from guided analytics to natural language to visual analytics. And I've got to a point now where I can see that I have genuine problems in grade 8 and 9 in terms of I've made very little progress in terms of addressing the representation of women versus the representation of men. And I can actually see that my worst cohort is this grade 9, where 91% of all employees are men. But now I might want to ask an AI to work alongside me. And I might want to transition to my third mode of analytics, which is augmented analytics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask an AI, why is this data point so unusual? What is the reason for this being such an outlier compared to all the other data points in the data set? And what my AI is going to now do is it's going to go and it's going to mine through all the dimensions inside that data, and it's going to look for unvisualized dimensions, so things which aren't included in that visualization, which may help to explain why that is such an unusual data point. So the first thing it's told me that in this cohort, the reason for this difference is partially explained by the fact that the people in grade 9 are mostly 45-year-old. There's many more 45-plus-year-old people than there are in any of the rest of the cohorts. So that's kind of the first explanation it's come up with. And the second explanation it's come up with is the fact that there are many more people who are above 5 years of tenure compared to all of the rest of the cohorts. So it might be that the reason is I have a lot of long-term employees who've kind of who've been promoted up to that point, but I haven't managed to recruit people into senior roles, and that's something I might want to address in a specific recruitment campaign. Okay, so that's what the experience feels like to move from natural language to self-service analytics, and finally to augmented analytics. And we think that by enabling people to move without leaving the platform between all these different experiences, firstly, we keep control of the data. We make it so that they are never exporting data into Excel. We're never losing control. So we are keeping them in this collaborative experience where they can easily share live insights with other people. But secondly, we make it easier for people to move from data curious to data rock stars. We want to make it so that it's as easy as possible for you to ramp up that curve, to learn new data skills, and to become amazing at working with data in every single business process. So what I'd like to do is just take a break. We'd like to just do one more activity before I quickly cover off external analytics. Can you think of a business initiative that you're aware of in one of your customer accounts, something that is not sales or service, something that is one of those other departments, whether it's HR, whether it's financial integrity, whether it's board level reporting, where people that don't use the Sales Cloud need access to more information in order to achieve a specific digital transformation objective that they've got. So write down who the stakeholders are, which department do they work for, and just one key question. If I could answer this key question, I could make a material impact on this board level initiative, and that material impact is X. So if you could just write that down for me, we'll just take a couple of minutes to put that down, and then we'll move on to the final topic.
Francois, while they are taking a moment, do you have time to answer another question?
Let's do it, yeah.
All right. The question is from Mitsu, and his question or her question is, will developers be able to customize this NLP experience, or it will be by default on the platform and the users will directly be able to use these features using Tableau CRM?
So okay, so we have kind of two different topics there. I think Amelia, I think this is probably a pretty big topic, how NLP is customizable. So if you don't mind, could we leave this for the technical session next week? I just think we're going to end up with a really pretty long answer. So we have two integration frameworks. We have the NLP frameworks within the Salesforce experience, which are used by Tableau CRM. Ask Data is designed so that you curate your data assets and you define synonyms, and it interrogates all the data under the covers, and it builds a semantic map so that when you're asking questions, it should be self-serving those with limited customization. So Ask Data is designed, the experience which I showed you here is designed as much as possible to be this out-of-the-box experience that gets people from data source to answer as quickly as possible. But as you're aware, within the wider Salesforce ecosystem, we have a broader portfolio of NLP integration points, chatbots and what have you, that we can use to define these more custom experiences.
Yeah, thanks, Francois. I think that's a really nice general overview. Mitsu, my recommendation, I went ahead and put a link in the chat, so feel free to join that technical session, which I think is really going to help to uncover more of that level of detail. Okay, Francois, back to you.
Okay, I've one final topic to touch on, which is external analytics. And what we see is when we start off by delivering analytics within organizations, we typically focus on getting data to every employee. And that is like one of the first key success factors. But in reality, you can go further. If you want to make data part of your brand, if you want to monetize your data assets, then you need to start thinking about external use cases. How do I use data with my customers? How do I use data with my business partners? And we do that in three ways, really. We see these three use cases. Firstly, we make data part of the way that businesses interact with partners and customers, typically through data portals. So this is where you might see something like Experience Cloud. Secondly, we help them to monetize data assets that they hold. You may be able to anonymize and resell data that you hold. There may be people who are willing to pay for that. And then finally, we help people to build world-class analytical experiences into specific software products that they sell. So there's a perspective here, which is, this is like a conversation to have with every customer, which is that their data, their perspective on the market is unique. Every organization has a holistic view of their market and their customer data, which may have material value. A lot of the time, what they're doing today is, specifically when they're working with partners, they are giving exports of data to partners so that they can essentially interpret that data. Now, our perspective is, if you give data away, if you give it away in a flat file, for example, rather than an analytical experience, then other people are able to add value to it. And then you lose control of the data. However, if you give people insights, not data, if you give them analytical experiences, so like a dashboard or like, something that is integrated into your application, then that is something that is valuable, and people are willing to pay multiple times over for the same data point being used to deliver different insights. So what we see is that there's two key things that people are trying to do when they're delivering data as part of the external facing experience. Firstly, they'll be transforming customer experience. So they might be trying to improve the interaction with customers and partners, and they might be able to add stickiness into their current customer-facing experiences. But secondly, they also might be trying to create new revenue streams. So they might have data assets which they hold, which they know have material value, and they might be able to resell those data assets. And then secondly, they might actually charge for different tiers of a software product. By giving a software product that has advanced analytics capabilities within it, you might actually be able to create an upsell opportunity when you're a software company. So I've got three use cases here, which I just wanted to use just to show how that feels in practice. We have the first use case here is Auchan. So Auchan are a major French retail group, obviously, and they have a ton of POS data about their customers. So they have a lot of data about buying behavior. There are firms like L'Oreal that want to buy that data so that they can optimize their brand campaigns. Auchan use Tableau's platform to collect their data assets, to prepare assets that they can resell, and then as a platform to host those assets so that when L'Oreal want to subscribe to them, that they can use them inside a smart platform with a great analytics experience. So that's how you monetize data using the Tableau platform. We also see customers who are using Tableau to make their own software products better. So if a company is delivering a digital experience as a software product that their customers are paying for, that software product can look just much more innovative when it has smarter analytics inside it. An example is Featurespace. They sell fraud and financial crime management solutions. So when they wanted to sell that to the customers, they realized that they could make that digital experience just more amazing by delivering on the analytical platform that their banking customers love to use, which is Tableau. We also see customers like Siemens. So Siemens have moved over time from a company that used to sell dumb machines to a company that sells smart machines with sensor arrays and what have you inside them. So when they want to move from dumb machines to smart machines, they embed Tableau inside their MindSphere product so that their customers can use Tableau to understand, for example, things like predictive insights around maintenance of all of the machines. So we think that there's tons of opportunity for, firstly, data as part of a partner portal or a customer portal. Secondly, data as part of a software product that you actually sell, and then finally monetizing data. And just as a final activity, I don't think we're going to have time to go through this all now. I'm going to leave you with this to take away. Which of the following external analytics use cases apply to your customers? So just go through the three use cases we've got here after the event. Have a think about whether or not you've come across any customer and partner data portal problems, whether you've come across any data monetization opportunities, or whether you've come across any opportunities to enhance software products within your customers. Okay, while we're going through this final poll, I'm just going to wrap up with a few key takeaways, if that's okay. We've covered a lot of topics today, and I guess the four takeaways I'd like you to take with you is, firstly, companies that succeed actively look for ways to get data into more parts of the organization. So this is the critical success factor. Building a data culture and democratizing data is a choice. It doesn't just happen. And so companies that focus on dismantling technical barriers and more importantly, organizational barriers, so that they build these self-service data skills in all areas of the business and improve time to insight. So that's the first thing. The second thing is self-service empowerment is a critical success factor. If all insights need to be generated by a central IT function, then you just won't achieve the speed to insight and agility that you need in a crisis to continually sense change and respond with agility. And so from a data governance perspective, if your users can't analyze data effectively within the platform, then they just export the data to tools like Excel and you lose control. And from an empowerment perspective, your business will always move as slow as your slowest analyst unless you give people self-service skills. Third, to speed up time to insight, you need to deliver an integrated experience that joins up the way that you manage and trust data with how you explore and analyze data into one single self-service workflow. And then finally, many users just won't use data unless you bring analytics to the applications where they work. So when you do, when you bring insights into the applications, you make the whole organization smarter and more efficient. And all of these capabilities help our customers to transform from legacy modes where 20% of people use data to data-driven businesses. So that's what we mean when we say our mission is to help people see and understand data. And that is why we believe that data is part of every single digital transformation. Okay, so thanks very much for attending the session. I really appreciate your time. And I look forward to seeing you on subsequent follow-up sessions. Thanks very much.